Hi, welcome to our Facebook Live. I'm Sierra Barter with AAA Northeast, and here we have Lewis from the mortgage area of AAA Northeast Bank. So Lewis has been in the mortgage industry for over 25 years, and he has been here the last 7 years at the AAA Northeast Bank. Lewis is a licensed mortgage consultant, NMLS number 1191100. He is licensed in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. Lewis is also a licensed realtor, and he has been for the last 13 years, currently with HomeSmart Professionals, and he is licensed here in Rhode Island. Thank you, Lewis.
Hi, Sierra. Thanks for having me today. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Excellent. Thanks. So we're here to talk about some 5 tips to buying a house and how to prepare for that. So we'll kind of go through that, and if you have any questions, please feel free to go online and ask. But the first thing I always tell people is determine what your budget is. The mortgage company is going to qualify you on your gross income, and we have a formula that we calculate. But you might not be comfortable with that mortgage payment that we tell you. You yourself have additional expenses that we don't consider. Things like your cell phone bill, utilities, and cable is a huge bill that everyone has nowadays that I think people in the past never had. So you have to determine those things in calculating your budget as well. From there, I would say get credit ready. You need to know what your credit scores are and where you are in your credit profile. You want to have a good credit score. You want to have your balances be typically below 30% of what your limit is on your card, because that'll give you the biggest boost on your credit.
So, Lewis, when you're talking about your credit score, what is a good credit score that you want to aim for when you're applying to buy a home?
A great credit score is 740 or better. That usually gets you into most of the conventional programs. From there, as your score drops, it does affect the pricing of the loan and other aspects of it. The typical minimum is 620 to 630. Each lender has a different threshold. Unfortunately, AAA does work with multiple lenders, so if you don't fit the category for one, we can often place you in another. And there are other programs that will go as low as 580. So the important thing is to know where you are in that credit profile, and then we can determine what program you might fit into.
Great. So when we're thinking about, talking about your budget, getting your credit score ready, people often talk about your down payment. So how much could you earmark to put down on a home?
Your down payment is a good question. Typically, you can expect anywhere from 3 to 5% as a minimum down payment on the purchase of a home. The less you put down, the more it's going to cost you, because there is private mortgage insurance involved, which is an additional cost. In a perfect world, if you can come up with 20%, you'll save money for 2 reasons. 1, you're borrowing less, and 2, you avoid the private mortgage insurance aspect of borrowing on a home.
Awesome. So part of our Facebook Live, if you have any questions, add them to the comments, and we'll be asking them online here with Lewis. So we do have a question from Karina in Lincoln. She asked, when should she start looking for a home? Right now it's springtime. A lot of people are, ready to, start looking for houses, versus in the winter where it's not as great out. So when is the best time to buy a home?
Yeah, I get that question all the time as a real estate agent, especially. It's always a good time to buy a home. If you're purchasing in the winter, you have less people to compete with. There is less inventory, but a snowy day is a perfect day to go out and look at a home, maybe put an offer in. Who else is going to be out? You have less people to compete with. Yeah. If you're out in the spring market, there are houses on the market, but there's also more buyers. So you're going to be competing with a lot of people at that point.
Great. So we have another question from Kristen down in Wayne, New Jersey. So she asked, she's starting to look at the home buying process. Should she get approved before she starts looking, or how does that work? What's that process like?
You definitely want to be pre-approved. I often have just general conversations with people to prepare them. They also have to prepare for a down payment, so that could be 3 to 4% of the purchase price typically for your closing costs, down payment, and things like prepaid items for taxes and insurance. So you need to save up for that and consider those things as well. But getting pre-approved is probably top of the line. If you're hot to buy, you definitely want to get pre-approved, because a realtor will typically not accept an offer on a home unless you have that pre-approval in hand. And that means the bank's reviewed your income, your assets, as well as your credit to say that you're worthy and able to purchase that home.
Great. So as we're thinking about all the things we need to do before buying a home, so getting pre-approved, making sure your credit ready, thinking about your budget and your down payment, is there a better time of year? Like, is there a time that's better for you financially, for the market, to start this process?
I would say typically the best time to start the process is in that 3 to 6 months before you think you're going to purchase a home. Documents do start to expire when you get pre-qualified. So the pre-qualification is typically good for about 90 days.
Okay.
But I would say if you're not sure where you are in the process, do it early so you can prepare. The banks look back, for example, about 2 months at your asset history. So they do look at large deposits and the movement of funds. So, you want to know if you have that down payment, and if you're getting it from somewhere else, you want to get those funds where you need them.
Got it. Cool. So say you look at these houses, you find the dream house, it's within your budget, you're pre-approved, all that good stuff. When you put in that offer, should you always put in lower than the starting price or the asking price?
That's a great question, and that depends. I always say you should always work with a local realtor as a buyer agent. You want an agent that represents you in the process. When you go to an open house, the listing agent represents the seller. So you should have a buyer agent working with you, and they can help you negotiate and determine what you should offer on a house. Low ball offers are not always a good thing, especially in this market. It's very competitive right now, and we're finding that people are actually offering over asking price. But there are things to consider. How long's the house been on the market? If it was just listed, I don't think they're going to accept a low offer. But if it's been sitting on the market for 6 months, then you can probably hit them with something a bit lower.
Got it. So it all depends.
It all depends. We want to be competitive in this market.
Okay, cool. So say offer's accepted, you're ready to go, ready to send the paperwork, but you have to think about your closing costs, right? So how much should a buyer earmark or budget for those closing costs?
The closing costs, again, are about 3 to 4% of the purchase price typically. I would say anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 for your average home buyer. It depends on the taxes on the home because they do escrow. An escrow account is an account they set aside for you to pay your taxes and insurance for you. And they have an initial installment that's required for that. And it's typically about 3 months of the taxes and about 2 or 3 months of insurance.
Great. So we have one more question that's coming from Jordan here in North Providence. So, he's a first-time home buyer. How much should he borrow from a mortgage?
It really depends on your particular scenario. You want to have some money left over after you purchase the home for improvements or anything unexpected expenses. So you don't want to put all of your money into the game, but you want to put down as much as possible to lower your burden on yourself. But typically you can plan from 3 to 5% as a minimum for a down payment for most buyers.
Okay, cool. So first step, first-time home buyer, it's a tight market like you said, things are going quickly. What's the first thing someone should do?
First thing you want to do is have that pre-qualification in hand,
Okay.
because your offer won't be accepted without it. And then you want to have that realtor working with you so you can negotiate properly, get that offer submitted as quickly as possible, and hopefully give it the best consideration.
Awesome. So if folks here on Facebook are looking to learn more about home mortgages through AAA, what's the next step? What should they be doing?
The next step is call us. We consult with borrowers for free, so there's no fee for a conversation. A quote, absolutely. Compare us to any other lenders that you might be considering. And questions are never turned away, so feel free to call us, email us, or visit us on AAA.com.
Great. And Louis Alfaya, you are an expert in your field. People can reach out to you with questions if they have it.
Absolutely.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for those watching here on Facebook.
Great, thanks.